Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Headline Hits on the LWN Network with me, your host, Tammy Nation. I hope everybody's having a wonderful Thursday so far. I know that it's busy, busy, busy in the news like it always is. I do have some information on Trump's presser with the trade deal with the United Kingdom. He was just wrapping it up, taking questions. I've been watching it for the whole time, actually, and some positive things to come out of that this morning. Always good news. He's very optimistic and positive, and I love that about him at times like this when it's so troubling and there's so much going on in this world. He just keeps a positive, optimistic attitude, and he really likes to make sure that we feel comfortable in the things that he is doing, even if we don't fully understand them. And he did make a statement about saying that tariffs are the big misunderstanding across the country and businesses and everything else, that it has been misunderstood for a very long time, and that he wants to make sure that we fully understand everything that he's doing. That's why he's being so transparent about everything. So good news on that. It is May 8th, 2025. It is Thursday. If you guys didn't have a chance to catch it also, I want to let you know that we did do a show last night. LW, Jeff B, and myself, we had a good time last night. Like we always do. It's always fun when we get together and are able to have a great conversation. We had some callers last night. Some of you that are in chat now were there. We appreciate that. And it's just great to have a community like this. It's never goes unappreciated. And I want you guys to know that we appreciate each and every one of you, the comments that you have to share, the times that you do call in. It's just a wonderful community, like I said. And at the LWN Network, that's what we try to bring here each and every time we do a show, to include everybody, hear everybody, what they have to say. And, there's serious things that are going on that we talk about, of course, but then we like to have a little fun in there too. So I'm going to go ahead and play the short little intro, and we are going to get into headline hits for the last one of the week for Thursday. It's probably going to be a little bit longer because there was a lot of things breaking last minute this morning that I was paying attention to. So you guys have the latest up-to-minute updates on the things that I'm bringing to you this morning. So hang in there, kick back, and we will start the show in just a moment. One of the big things that we're starting off this morning, judges and lawsuits. This time it's against one of them. Stephen Miller, America's first legal, drops a bombshell on Chief Justice John Roberts. So Stephen Miller's America First Legal drops the bombshell lawsuit. It is a lawsuit against Justice John Roberts, you guys. He has filed the lawsuit against him in his capacity as presiding officer of the Judicial Conference of the United States, and Robert J. Conrad, director of the Administrative Office of the U.S. Courts. The lawsuit accuses the powerful duo of running what AFL describes as an unconstitutional shadow agency and violating federal transparency laws. The lawsuit was filed on April 22nd, and it slams the Judicial Conference of the United States and its administrative arm, both overseen by Justice Roberts, as a rogue executive agency, and that have collaborated with far-left lawmakers to wage lawfare against conservative Supreme Court justices. According to the complaint, the Judicial Conference and the Administrative Office of the U.S. Courts, long presumed exempt from the Freedom of Information Act, have functioned more like executive agencies rather than neutral arms of the judiciary. These are some powerful words, some powerful claims in this lawsuit. The AFL argues that these entities must comply with FOIA because they exercise executive powers, including responding to congressional oversight and issuing binding regulations, all under the direction of Roberts himself. The AFL's lawsuit stems from its FOIA request for communications between these agencies and White House and Johnson, two of the most vocal Democratic crusaders against conservative justices. After the agencies flatly denied the request, claiming the FOIA doesn't apply to them, AFL took them to court. So we'll see how this unfolds and what comes of this, but good for him for doing that. Next up, Biden-appointed federal judge orders Trump administration to immediately resettle 12K immigrants and to begin processing these refugees within the next 7 days. So we have a judge that lawsuits are being brought against, a Supreme Court judge, and now we have another judge that is trying to resettle 12,000 migrants and forcing Trump's hand to be able to do that within the next 7 days. On Monday, she ordered the Trump administration to immediately resettle some 12,000 refugees into the U.S. under a court order that partially blocks President Trump's executive order aimed at halting the refugee admissions program. U.S. District Judge Jamal Whitehead, a 2023 appointee of former President Joe Biden, issued the order despite the Trump administration saying during a hearing last week that it should only have to process 160 refugees into the country and would likely appeal any order requiring thousands to be admitted. This court will not entertain the government's result-oriented rewriting of a judicial order that clearly says what it says, Whitehead wrote on Monday. The government is free, of course, to seek further clarification from the Ninth Circuit, but the government is not free to disobey statutory and constitutional law and the direct orders of this court and the Ninth Circuit while it seeks such clarification. Now, Trump signed an executive order on his first day in office suspending refugees resettlement and ordering the House of Department of Social or Homeland Security to report back within 90 days on whether resuming resettlement would be in the interest of the United States. Whitehead said at the time that the Trump's actions were effective nullification of congressional will and setting up the nation's refugee admissions program. Whitehead ordered the Trump administration within the next 7 days to resume processing the cases of refugees who are protected by the court order. Fox News Digital has the legal paperwork filings. If you guys want to go there and check it out, you can see all the documentation on it. The federal judge also told the government to immediately take steps to facilitate admission to the U.S. for those refugees whose clearances, including medical and security authorizations, have not yet lapsed. So we have, once again, another judge that is going for these refugees and immigrants and against the American policies that we have in place. And President Trump, like I said, he said 160 he will process, but if it's thousands of them, he warned them ahead of time in his EO, it's not going to happen. So this is another one of those things that we have to wait and see what is going to be the final conclusion and decision on this. And this one is a big one. With the Epstein files, which have been going round and round. Where are they? They're lost, where they're given up. There's somebody that isn't on the up and up in government that is not allowing this to be released. Well, there's some accusations and update to those files from Rep. James Comer, who claims the Epstein files may have already been destroyed. He accuses federal government of a possible cover-up. In a new interview he had with Benny Johnson, the House Oversight Chairman, James Comer, did reveal what may be the most really damning development in the fight to uncover the truth behind the Jeffrey Epstein sinister global sex trafficking and blackmail network. The Epstein files, he said, may have already been destroyed and the federal government might be complicit. Comer, who has spearheaded numerous high-profile investigations into the Biden family corruption and the weaponization of federal agencies, made it very clear that he believes the Department of Justice no longer has the files, if it ever did. These are big accusations. Comer believes the files are already destroyed to cover up the deep state. He stated, I don't think the Department of Justice has the Epstein files, or at least the Attorney General does not have them, or she would have turned them over. The president ordered them released. The Attorney General ordered them released. We all know they haven't been released. One of my biggest fears, which I expressed with Kash Patel and a lot of people, including Stephen Miller, going into the new administration was this. I hope they're not shredding documents right now. This was a few weeks before the transition. I said, I hope they're not shredding documents, but all you need to go on that first day and try to get all that stuff. You need to get in there, get it released, because my fear, based on what I've dealt with investigations and in communication with this deep state apparatus, is that they're probably in there shredding documents as we speak. So hopefully someone has a copy of that. The task force on the declassification of federal secrets, led by Rep. Anna Paulina Luna, has been relentless in its pursuit of transparency, but Comer revealed that Luna is pretty frustrated by the stonewalling that she's receiving. And I hope that we find out, because of our task force led by Luna, she has done everything. I mean, she's relentless, she's persistent, and she's pretty frustrated right now that these files haven't been released, even though the president and the attorney general have ordered them released. But like I told Anna, the same thing I told Patel and everybody else, you assume that somebody in the deep state said, okay, well, we're just going to put these in a file back here, this incriminating evidence on everybody, and maybe the next administration can do whatever they want to do with it. But that's unfortunately the way it's not supposed to work. But it hasn't worked within the deep state. Comer's gravest concern is the potential involvement of the federal government in these Epstein operations. The congressman suggested the deep state's actions may not be driven by loyalty to figures like the Clintons, but rather by a desire to protect their own power and avoid disruption. He continued to say they didn't want their agencies to be disrupted. The same thing with the Epstein files. I don't know this, but my concern is that the government may have known a lot more and may have been an active participant, maybe with the intentions of intelligence gathering. Who knows? But at the end of the day, I don't think the American people would be okay if the government knew that crimes against young women were occurring, and yet they did nothing to intervene. So Attorney General Pam Bondi did speak out about these allegations, and she responded to Comer's bombshell yesterday outside the White House after a reporter asked about it. And she stated the FBI, they're reviewing tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn, and there are hundreds of victims, she said. And no one victim will ever get released, she added. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI has diligently been going through that. Bondi then said she would be in touch with Comer, that she hadn't seen the statement. She said, but I'll call him later to find out. So you can read more of this story in detail on Gateway Pundit. And then we're going to get into actually later into this newscast about what is happening with James O'Keefe. And it actually ties into what Comer just told us a day or two before. Next up, we do have Maxine Waters was called out by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent when she makes a big factual error while grilling him about Doge and forgets when they first met. Waters absolutely face-planted herself in an embarrassing fashion while she was trying to interrogate Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent during a hearing. Bessent was invited to testify before the House Financial Services Committee regarding the state of the international financial system. The hearing comes as Bessent and U.S. Trade Representatives Jamieson Greer are set to meet with high-level Chinese delegation this weekend in Switzerland in the first major talks between the two countries since President Trump rightfully imposed stiff tariffs against Chinese imports. But Rep. Maxine Waters had no interest in such a critical event. Instead, she sought to embarrass Bessent over the work Doge is doing to save Americans billions of taxpayer dollars. Waters was focused on Bessent allowing Doge workers who are characterized as government employees to access the Treasury Department's payment system and data. Multiple judges had tried to block Doge, as we know, workers from accessing the Treasury systems before another judge in March gave them the green light. Well, Waters asked him, do you know the level, type, or nature of the clearances and the security training required for individuals to access the information held in the Treasury, IRS, or CFBP? After Bessent replied that he did, Waters demanded to know whether all individuals given access to Treasuries and CFPB's computer bases received the proper clearances and security training before being granted access. While Bessent corrected Waters by pointing out a key detail she omitted. The individuals were given read-only access, meaning that they could not tamper with any of the documents. Waters then interrupted Besant and attempted to scold him. Please, you cannot filibuster here. This is not the filibuster playground, she stated. You let these strangers into our treasury with access to all of the data, all of the personal information, and you just opened the door. Why did you do that? So Waters made the damning mistake. The people going into the treasury were not strangers at all. They were employees, Besant reminded her. Waters tried again to trip up Besant by asking about 25-year-old Marco Ellis, a software engineer who worked for Elon Musk's Doge, before re-signing over allegedly racist social media post. He was later put back on the U.S. payroll. And she said, are you saying today in front of this committee that all of them were Treasury employees, that the 25-year-old who's being identified and worked for Elon Musk was allowed into the Treasury? Was that person there? She demanded. And Besant replied, he was an employee, as was Tom Kraus, the senior person on the Doge team. There were only two people. There were Doge employees also, she bellowed. Were you aware that there were Doge employees coming into our treasury, getting out all of our personal information? Besant closed the back and forth by pointing out the error that Waters made, the same silly error as she did seconds ago. He said, ma'am, there is no such thing as a Doge employee. They were Treasury employees. Waters also forgot when she first met Besant. This is the first time we have met, she said. Is that correct? And Besant said, no, ma'am, we actually met one New Year's Eve in the Bahamas. And she said, why don't I remember that? And Besant stated, you weren't much better at the electric slide than I was. So he tried to just make a joke out of the whole situation, because she really did just kind of yell and scream. If you didn't watch it, it's crazy how the yelling and screaming and the not listening to the answers occurs quite frequently when it comes from some of the Democrats and when they have these hearings. It's just amazing to me. So she didn't do herself any favors. Next up, we have David Perdue, the former senator of Georgia from 2015 to 2021, has been sworn in as the new ambassador to China. And this comes just ahead of high-level talks that are scheduled with Chinese negotiators, the first talks since the 145% tariffs imported on China goods. Also, James O'Keefe from Project Veritas is in the beginning of the process of blowing the lid off of billions of dollars of government corruption that ties Pfizer to the Epstein sex ring and binds intelligence agencies here and around the world who appear to have given permission and provided funding for the sex ring operation to function. So did you hear that? The government corruption, it ties Pfizer and Epstein sex ring. Intelligence agencies here in our own country and around the world who appear to have given permission and provided funding for this operation to function. James has posted videos that he was uncovered. What he had covered in all of this is scaring him, that he has given a dead man's switch to Alex Jones should anything happen to him. And you can actually follow James on X and follow as he's releasing all this information. And that ties into what we just reported about Comer thinking these Epstein files are gone, that he thinks that our government was involved in allowing the operation into this. So it's two major people that have been digging on this for years, uncovering stuff. And I think there's a lot more to come on this. When you talk about James O'Keefe being able to understand what's going on and how he's got all the ties in there. Pam Bondi keeps being thrown under the bus with this because of her reactions to it and the things that she has said that haven't come true and the excuses that she keeps making. So this is one of the biggest stories, I think, of our time. And we're just going to have to wait and see how it unfolds. And like I said, James has released some of it starting yesterday, and then he's going to just keep releasing some of this information. So we definitely have to keep him in our thoughts and prayers because this is very serious in our country. Next up, we have the Vatican is still deciding on a pope as the black smoke has been pouring out. Once we see the white smoke that comes out of the Vatican, that's when a new pope has been chosen, but none yet. Then we have things do remain heated with Israel and Pakistan as they keep exchanging fire. Pakistan forces have shot down 25 Israeli-made drones. One Israeli drone struck a military structure and caused damage to some military equipment. It was considered to be a terrorist infrastructure. The escalation is continuing and not slowing down, unfortunately. The death tolls are climbing as well as the damages are rising, and Pakistan has sworn not to stand down. Next up, last night, the president appeared on a show called Hugh Hewitt, and he discussed nuclear talks with Iran and stated that Iran has to turn over its uranium and either deactivate or destroy their centrifuges, or else they will face strikes from the United States. Basically, he said Iran has two choices: to get rid of it, or the United States is going to strike. Trump said, I'd very much rather like to make a deal with them, a verified deal. We want a total verification, Trump stated. And he said there are two alternatives: blow them up nicely or blow them up viciously. Either way, blow them up, get rid of it. So we have to stay posted on that too. Next, I'm thrilled to announce that we've reached a breakthrough in a trade deal with the United Kingdom. Trump's presser, that is what he stated. That was going on right before I hit air today. He said that the credible country today is a victory day for World War II. We won the war together exactly 80 years ago. So there could be no more perfect timing, no more perfect morning to reach this historic agreement between us two. I want to thank Prime Minister Starmer, Trump said, and his very talented team for their outstanding work and partnership. Today's agreement with the UK is the first in a series of agreements on trade that my administration has been renegotiating over the past 4 weeks. With this deal, the UK joins the United States in affirming that reciprocity and fairness is an essential and vital principle of international trade. The deal includes billions of dollars of increased market access for American exports, especially in the agriculture, dramatically increasing access for American beef, ethanol, and virtually all of the products produced by our great farmers. In addition, the UK will reduce or eliminate numerous non-tariff barriers that unfairly discriminated against American products. But this is now turning out, I think, to be really a great deal for both countries, Trump stated. He said it's really great for the UK also. They're opening up the country. He said their country is a little closed, and we appreciate that. They'll also be fast tracking American goods through their customs process, so our exports go to a very, very quick form of approval, and there won't be any red tape. Things are going to move very quickly both ways, and the final details are being written up in the coming weeks, and will receive new market access for American chemicals, machinery, and many other industrial products that were not allowed. And they'll end up getting products that they'll be able to price. And if they like them better, we can make great products. They'll be buying those products, but they were not available in the UK. He said, furthermore, in a historic step, the deal includes plans that will bring the United Kingdom into the economic security alignment with the United States. That's the first of its kind. So we have a big economic security blanket, and that's very important. And we feel very, very comfortable with that because it's been a great ally. They've been truly one of our greatest allies. By the way, we have many meetings planned today and tomorrow. Every country wants to be making deals. And this is all good news, you guys, because there is so much nervousness and misunderstanding about the tariffs. You watch these Trump pressers about this, and it calms you down and it helps you understand a little more of what's going on from the president and his administration and the people surrounding him that are actually negotiating these deals, that are talking to these representatives. It's not just hearsay from somebody here or there. It's actual information coming from the people involved in these deals. He said also the president's ambassadors are going to be heading to Switzerland on Saturday to talk with them. China is also on the books for talks as well this weekend. So a very big weekend ahead of us. What I like about Trump is he's getting these things done within 45 days or so with the UK, which was mostly closed to trade. I don't think we realized how close to trade they were. They were not as tight as China, but very close. And he cuts through all the red tape. He said there's no red tape, and he gets these historic deals done. This is a big, huge deal. Some of the people in attendance of the presser said that there was talk about we need to make deals and we need to fix trade, but nothing much happened really in these past administrations. And any movement seemed to take years and lots of red tape to get through. Red tape actually was often used as an excuse for some things never getting done in a timely fashion in our government. But the pressure is on with President Trump, the things he promised us, the things he said he was going to do. And so far, so good. I mean, that is a big, huge deal with the United Kingdom. So kudos to him for that and his people that are working with him. And kudos to the negotiators from the other countries as well, the ambassadors that worked really hard on this for the last 45 days. That's pretty impressive. Next up, we have Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. He has a message for the entire world that he put out there. He said, no more pronouns, no more climate change obsessions, no more emergency vaccine mandates, no more dudes in dresses. He said, we are done with this shit. And I think that's pretty amazing, pretty blunt, pretty obvious, pretty truthful, just coming out there saying we're not dealing with any of this anymore. We have business to take care of. We can't be, hopping around on these, getting sidetracked with all this nonsense. We have a military to keep together, put together, have a strong military. And, not being worried about pronouns, not being worried about climate change obsessions. Everybody, I think, is worried about the environment because guess what? If the environment doesn't do well, we all evaporate, don't we? So you don't have to obsess about it and make nonsensical decisions with, these windmills that end up killing birds and taking batteries and all this stuff to run on. And it's just nonsense where it can just stop. And, I know they have solar stuff, but then it's like, it goes on with all the gory details that we're not told with a lot of people that are obsessed about climate change. And they don't give us all the facts about it, all the details about it. So I'm happy that we're not going to obsess about that. We're going to obsess about how just to make America great, how to make it better, and how to get back on track with doing the things that are right by the American people and what we want. Out there, we also have robots going wild. They're already making their way across internet platforms. There's video footage out there claimed to show a Unitree H1, which is a full-sized universal humanoid robot going berserk, nearly injuring 2 workers after a coding error last week at a testing facility in China. And if you haven't seen this video, try to search it up. It's not hard to find. The robot was on a little platform hanging from like a pole, like a hook, and its arms were swinging wildly as workers were trying to get behind it to shut it off or get it out of the way. I mean, this robot was seriously throwing down moves, and you could have really got hurt if it would have swung at you. And it was on all over the internet. It should still be there. I just saw it again yesterday. And then there's another story about another bot going wild. And this one happened at the Tianjin Winter Gala Festival in China. It was once again a Unitree H1 humanoid robot. It malfunctioned, and it actually unexpectedly lunged forward towards a spectator who had extended their hand out for a handshake. And it literally looked like it wanted to jump the person reaching out to shake its hand. These are just a couple examples of what do you do when it's a whole hunk of metal coming at you, swinging its arms around. How do you get near it to shut it down? Is everybody going to start having to carry weapons in order to take these things down if they go crazy? So that's what our tech elite are really racing towards, is having machines that aren't fully controllable. They all have glitches, just like our internet has glitches. Any technology has glitches, right? And basically, they're built by a lot of regimes that we really don't trust, because these 2 incidents happened with H1 humanoid robots that were made in China. So it was just very concerning. It's kind of funny at first, but then you think, it's really not funny, because if there were a lot of these out there in the streets for whatever reason they're using them for, and they all started going crazy, they'd be very hard to stop. Next up, we have Department of Homeland Security is now offering illegal aliens in our country the option to get their flight paid for if they self-deport, with an added bonus of $1,000 in spending money. And I know that at first glance, it sounds like they're throwing away money, but I don't think it is, because they said it cost on average about $17,000 to arrest, detain, and deport someone. So with these people self-deporting and us giving them $1,000, it costs on average, I think they said 45 or 40 $700 to deport someone versus the $17,000. So it's basically a fourth of the cost. Border czar Tim Homan is out spreading the word, excuse me, spreading the word and what he had to say. And he said, I think people are finally getting the message that if you leave on your own, it's a positive thing because you can take advantage of the legal programs to come back. But we have to go through the process of formally deporting you. There are mandatory violations against you if you don't self-deport. It can be 20 years, and sometimes it'll be forever that you're not allowed to come back in here. So if you want to take advantage, come back as a worker, a tourist visa, a visitor visa, a student visa, or you're having a U.S. child. He said, if you take the partition of the petition for you in the future to keep yourself open to the opportunity of legal entry, do things the right way. He's stating that there's millions of people standing in line right now doing things the right way, taking the test in the background, doing the background investigations, paying their fees. He said they're sitting on the back seat while millions of people are allowed in this country. And he said, while many are let in during the Biden administration, they simply don't qualify for asylum. And that's what we forget, because a lot of people are saying, hey, they're here, they deserve asylum, they came in, but he's saying they don't deserve it because they're criminals, they didn't get vetted, they didn't come in here the right way. So basically, the recommendation is he's saying, get your affairs in order, work with ICE, go to the CBP One app, leave on your own. And if you don't, well, things are going to be different, because with the Trump administration, we are ready to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. But if you want an opportunity to come back here, go away, deport yourself, take advantage of what we're offering you, and come back the legal way. I think that's very fair. Next up, we have the House just voted this morning to make President Trump's name change for the Gulf of America permanent. The vote did pass just before I went on air, 211 to 206. It was introduced actually by Marjorie Taylor Greene. 0 Democrats voted in favor of the bill. Go figure, 0 of them. 1 Republican did vote against the bill, and that was a rep from Nebraska, Don Bacon. Marjorie Taylor Greene said during the debate on the bill that this is such an important thing to do for the American people. The American people deserve pride in their country, and they deserve pride in the waters that we own and that we protect with our military and our Coast Guard and all the businesses that prosper along these waters. So that is a bit of good news to headline hits for the week. I know this was a lot this morning, but like I said, a lot of it was breaking, and I didn't want to leave it out. And some of the stuff that I already had prepared, I thought were important to keep an eye on and pay attention to. So as we close out this week with headline hits, the big things to pay attention to coming down the pipes is this weekend. We've got China and we've got negotiations in Switzerland, both happening this weekend. So hopefully some good and positive information comes out on that. We also have obviously the Indian and Pakistan stuff continuing on. We've got Israel continuing on. So we've got these fightings that are going on that we have to pay attention to. And then in our own backyard, we have to pay attention to what is being released by James O'Keefe regarding the Epstein Files, our government, and the accusations that he has made and information that he has claimed to find out allegedly. And also James Comer put that together with what he had to say and see what Pam Bondi is going to come out with and say next. So it's just been a lot of information, a lot going on, and a lot paying attention to. But, you know, it is just a lot that is going on. It's just plain and simple as that. I did see also people were saying the ball is back because we remember that soccer ball that Putin had given Trump years ago. Well, at a presser the other day or some kind of meeting, it was funny because people said the soccer ball is back. It's not the same soccer ball, no, but it is a soccer ball that President Trump had, and then he handed over to Pam Bondi to hang on to, and she walked away with it. So because of what is being accused with her holding back things or maybe being involved, and it's accusations only by O'Keefe and Comer, they're saying that she has the ball's in her court, let's go, let's get these Epstein files out. That's not verified. That's just what some people are making out of Trump handing her a soccer ball. So, it's crazy out there, but interesting times for sure. There's good in mixed with the bad. And we just have to, like I said, just stay diligent on everything. So thank you guys very much for joining me on this long one today. I do appreciate it. That is going to be it for me for this week, but I will surely be back here on the LWN network on Monday, noon Eastern Standard Time, to bring you the latest in headline hits on Monday. So take care. God bless each and every one of you. Have a beautiful, wonderful weekend. And once again, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.